Have you ever noticed that the moment you start thinking smarter, life suddenly feels like a strategy game you were never trained for? It's like something shifts. The same situations, the same people, the same conversations, but suddenly you see more, you notice more, and things that once felt simple start feeling layered. Let's be honest, nobody really teaches you how to think strategically. There's no class for it, no clear moment where someone sits you down and says, "This is how you understand people. This is how you think ahead. This is how you protect your decisions." It doesn't happen like that. Instead, it happens slowly. You just wake up one day and realize, wait, not everything is as simple as I thought. You start replaying conversations in your head. You start noticing patterns in people. You start questioning things you once accepted without thinking. And that's where it begins. Cold truth number one. Not everyone thinks the way you do. At first, this is hard to accept, because naturally, you assume people see things the way you see them. You assume people think with the same intentions, the same logic, the same awareness, but they don't. Some people act without thinking. Some people react without understanding. Some people move based on emotion alone. But then, there are others. People who observe more than they speak. People who listen more than they react. People who notice what isn't being said, not just what is being said. And the funniest part? Sometimes those people are already 3 steps ahead, while you're still trying to understand step 1. Not because they're better, but because they're thinking differently. They're not just reacting to the moment. They're analyzing it. They're reading it. They're predicting what comes next. And once you realize that, you stop assuming. You stop expecting everyone to think like you. You become more aware, more careful, more intentional. Cold truth number 2. Your emotions are not always your friend. Now, this one is uncomfortable because we like to believe that how we feel is always valid. And yes, your emotions matter, but that doesn't mean they are always right. Sometimes your emotions react faster than your logic. Something small happens, and instantly your brain responds. Frustration, anger, doubt, overthinking. You don't even pause. You don't even question it, you just react. And later, when everything is calm, when the moment has passed, you sit there and think, yeah, that probably wasn't the smartest move. And that's the funny part. In the moment, it feels right. It feels justified. It feels like the only response. But with distance, with time, you see it differently. You realize you could have said less. You could have done less. You could have waited. And that realization is powerful. Because strategic thinking isn't about removing emotions. It's about not letting them control your actions. It's about creating a pause, a small gap between what you feel and what you choose to do. Cold truth number 3. Sometimes doing less is smarter. This one goes against everything people expect. Because we're taught to respond, to explain, to defend, to prove, to act quickly, to say something, to do something. But strategy doesn't always look like action. Sometimes it looks like silence, not reacting, not explaining, not rushing to fix everything, just observing, just waiting, just letting things unfold. And that can feel uncomfortable because silence feels like weakness. At first, it feels like you're not doing enough. It feels like you're losing control. But in reality, you're gaining control. Because not every situation needs your reaction. Not every moment needs your energy. Not every problem needs your involvement. And once you understand that, you stop wasting effort. You become selective. You become intentional. You start choosing when to act instead of reacting to everything. And here's the funny part about becoming smarter. At the beginning, it feels like a curse. You overthink everything. You analyze every conversation. You replay moments again and again. You question people's intentions. You look for meaning in small details. It feels exhausting. It feels like your mind won't rest. But that phase doesn't last forever, because slowly, something changes. You stop overthinking everything, and you start understanding things. You begin to see patterns, not just in others, but in yourself. You notice how people behave, how they react, how they repeat the same habits, and suddenly, things that once confused you start making sense. You don't need to guess as much. You don't need to overanalyze as much, because you've seen it before. And that's when the real shift happens. You stop reacting, and you start choosing. You choose when to speak. You choose when to stay silent. You choose what deserves your attention. You choose what deserves your energy. And that's the difference, because being strategic isn't about controlling everything. It's not about being perfect. It's not about always being right. It's about understanding what actually matters. It's about knowing what to ignore, what to respond to, and what to let go. And sometimes, the smartest move is the simplest one. Pause, think, and then choose. Because once you start doing that, everything changes, not instantly, but gradually. Your decisions improve. Your reactions become calmer. Your perspective becomes clearer. And life starts feeling less chaotic. Not because the world changed, but because the way you see it did. If this made you think differently, follow Thoughts Opener. Because sometimes the smartest move is simply thinking before reacting.